Right, today we're going to do chapter 8 of SD 45, the Lichavi Badiya Sutta, the discourse to Badiya, the Lichavi. So this is a layman. Now look at the references, A4.193. That is the number to remember, if you want to know, you want to mention the sutta next time. That's the number. You either remember the title or the number. And then there is the theme. The theme is the conversion is a personal transformation and spiritual awakening. So in other words, what does early Buddhism mean by conversion? So now, if you look at this sutta, there's a lot of notes here. But I think over 8 pages of notes. So if you look at the translation, you can read out the notes on your own. The translation starts a few pages later. The discourse to Badiya, the Lichavi, A4193. Now, if you look at this sutta, it's very the main theme is very similar, identical actually, to the Kesaputiya Sutta, better known as the Kalama Sutta, A365. Now, in the case of the Kesaputiya Sutta or Kalama Sutta, it is recorded in the Book of Threes. It is A3.65, the Book of Threes, Sutta 65. Whereas this sutta, if you look, the number is A4193, Anguttara, the Book of Fours, the four things here, Sutta number 193. Now, in the Kesaputiya Sutta is based on three teachings: greed, hate, delusion. In other words, our purpose in practicing Buddhism is to overcome the three unwholesome roots: greed, hate, delusion. It's the same theme here, but one extra quality is added. Okay, that quality is called saramba. Now, saramba you can translate as impetuosity or haughtiness. It has a range of negative emotions, basically based on pride, arrogance, quarrelsomeness, things like that, right? So it's a kind of a social aspect is added here. So you got greed, hate, delusion, impetuosity. Okay. So let's find out now why the Buddha used this theme of four teachings, and then teaches the 10 points, which is very similar, identical with the Kesaputiya Sutta, but it's shorter, very much shorter, reminding us how to overcome these negative emotions. Okay. All right, let's look at section 1. At one time, the Blessed One was residing in the hall of the gable house of the great wood outside Vesali. So Vesali is one of those big cities in northern India, and there is this big great forest called the Great Wood. Wood means forest. And the Buddha and the monks are staying in what is called a gabled house. This gabled house has got a sloping roof. And then, so this is the location, and then someone visits the Buddha. Next section. Then Badiya, the Lichavi, approached the Blessed One. Having approached the Blessed One, he saluted him and sat down at one side. So there we see, always at the start, when someone comes to question the Buddha, someone with a curious mind usually, they will come first, they will greet the Buddha, they put the palms together, and then kind of small talk, if you like. So how are you? How's the weather? Things like that, And the Buddha also does that, okay? So, well, we call it small talk, but it's a kind of putting everyone at ease. When the Buddha meets the monks, for example, especially those who are practicing meditation, we ask the monks, of course, what can monks ask one another? What can the Buddha ask the monks? We ask about food. Says, how is your arms round? How's your health? And then the Buddha will go on to ask, how's your meditation? Have you attained this level, that level, and so on. So there's always this cordiality, this friendliness, even amongst the monks. So this teaches us something important, even at the beginning of the sutta, to be cordial, to be friendly to people wherever we are. And if we do that, people will find a kind of connection with the Dharma. Right, so after all this preliminary politeness, he sits down at one side. So if the Buddha is sitting, this person also will sit. If the Buddha is standing, this person will also stand. So this is a simple protocol, politeness, if you like. Of course, the Buddha doesn't mind. Sometimes some people are very angry, or people who want to challenge the Buddha. The Buddha is sitting and they kind of talk to the Buddha while they are standing and so on. But then it reflects on them. See, the problem with these people, they are recorded for eternity in the suttas, playing that role, So anyway, they're not exactly prototypes. They're just a lesson for us to remind us that being cordial, meaning being happy. If you're happy, it's easier to meditate. If you're happy, it's easier to know the Dharma. It's easier to remember the Dharma. Easier to stay focused. Smile inside as it starts there. Yeah? So he asked the Buddha, this is the key question, the thesis of the whole sutta, if you like. One short question, and the Buddha answers in the rest of the sutta. 1.3. Bhante, I heard this. Notice he calls the Buddha Bhante. That means he respects the Buddha. Others will call Master Gotama. Okay? Bhante, I heard this. The recluse Gotama is an illusionist or magician. He knows the conversion magic with which he converts the disciples of other sectarians. So from this sentence we have an idea that this sutta belongs to kind of a middle period or later period in the Buddha's life, when the community of Buddhists have grown quite big. A lot of followers, many monks. So a lot of people were intelligent people, good people were turning to the Buddha's teaching. And this became a bit of a, what we call today as professional rivalry. The other religions, the wanderers especially, they were very upset. Why were they upset? It's because they see religion as business. Their donations are affected. They get less food, and so on. So they're very upset. In fact, there are other stories where these wanderers are so unhappy, they do all kinds of terrible things to discredit the Buddha, which we have studied before. So here, Bhaddiya hears this report, so he's not very sure. He's wondering what all these people mean. Are they talking bad about the Buddha? One of the things they accuse the Buddha, they can't accuse the Buddha of bad things, so they use some amorphous, some uncertain words, mysterious words. Illusionist, Mayavi, magician, trickster, if you like. So they say, oh, the Buddha tricked these people. He converts others using magic, right? I think there was one occasion the Buddha kind of answered something like, so what if I use magic? It's the magic of truth, magic of the Dharma, and so on. But here the Buddha gives a long discourse to Bhaddiya, because he knows Bhaddiya is intelligent, is ready, so he gives Bhaddiya a complete answer. But remember, when the Buddha talks to Bhaddiya, who is a layman, some people will say, oh, the sutta is only for monks. But here you have a good example. The Buddha is talking to a layman, and he gives this long teaching to a lay person. Alright? So, whatever suttas you find that you can practice are for you. Most of the suttas are addressed to monks, because the monks are most often present with the Buddha. But here it is Bhaddiya. So when the Buddha speaks to Bhaddiya, and this sutta is recorded, what does it mean? It means this sutta is spoken to us. That is why it's very much more interesting to study the suttas. When you study the sutta, you really follow it, it's like the Buddha is talking to you. Imagine this is like a piece of music. So I'm the conductor, I'm playing it for you, and you're listening. But I didn't write the music. It's the Buddha, right? So we reinterpret, we replay this wonderful classic. Classical music is quite long and some difficult to listen, but there are certain parts that you like. So you remember that part. So when you study the sutta, you'll find certain parts strike you. Remember that part. Don't worry about other difficult parts. And then slowly things will come in over the years. If you regularly study the suttas a bit here, a bit there, as you age, you remember those things, they come together. I've been teaching now, you can remember, we all know we are nearly 50 years now. Yeah? So everything is so clear now, right? So there you are, you can do the same thing. That's the benefit of impermanence. No? As we age, our memory becomes better with the suttas. It may not be so good with other things, but the suttas begin to click together and we have a better idea. Otherwise, we can feel the peacefulness in our hearts. So that's even more important. Alright, so now the Buddha answers.
Here.
Sorry?
Just a moment.
Yes.
The word sawake, in this case, is it plural, the disciple?
Yes.
Then the translation, he converts the disciple of others.
Oh, it should be as, yeah. Disciples of others. Okay. So, I mean, if you look at this, the context, you at once kind of can guess it should be plural, disciples of others. Sometimes the sutta is already in my mind, so I just read through, I don't see the singular there, right? So it should be plural. Alright, so Badi is a bit concerned, so ask the Buddha, these people who say these things, why did you say that? Is it true? Look at the further down. Do they, Bhante, speak what has been spoken by the Blessed One? Alright, it's very important. Did you say this? And not misinterpret him with what is untrue. Right? So, number one, did the Buddha say this? Number two, is this person misrepresenting the Buddha? Now, today's paper is something about, right now the government is more careful about fake news. I think it's good to be aware because, as you know, Facebook, social media, internet, lots of fake news nowadays, fake Buddhism also. Now you find people like to say, they give a quotation and then they put Buddha, Be very careful with that kind of saying. Very often it's wrong. Of course, sometimes it's okay, they try to simplify it. But sometimes especially verses from Dhammapada, they will say something. For example, they say like, drop by drop, the pot is filled, so you do good that way too. Buddha. Well, it sounds right, if you think of the Dhammapada, you say, actually, it's wrong. I wouldn't say it's fake teaching, but it's just, it got mixed up, see? Because there are actually two Dhammapada verses. The first Dhammapada verse says, drop by drop, the pot is filled. Right? So don't look down on evil. It comes like that too, drop by drop. And the other verse is different. It says also like bit by bit, toka tokang. Toka tokang means little by little. I was joking in the previous class, I said toka tokang sounds like Hainanese, means to do work, right? Something like that. So toka, tokang means little by little. Okay? Toka means little. So when you repeat it, it becomes toka, tokang. It means little by little. So the second verse is little by little, you do good, and good comes to you. So this person who quoted this verse, he mixed the two verses up. He knows the Dharma, but he got mixed up. So it's good to be accurate. That is why I always say, give your references, check your references to quote properly, right? If you quote properly, it's better. Because the danger is you go misquoting in the end, you get totally something else. Buddha didn't say it, and then you say Buddha said it. That's misrepresenting the Buddha. So here, this Badiya is very careful, is asking the Buddha, is this true? So this is wonderful. See, if you're not sure of something, you come to the teacher, you ask for clarification. Okay, that's the question. Then the Buddha answers. So you can see, look at the heading, the bad conduct cycle. This is the first half. And then you look for the second half. So if you are lazy in reading, no need to read the bad conduct cycle. You go on to, what page is that? 95. You see the good conduct cycle. Okay? So it's enough for you to read the good conduct cycle if you like. Of course, if you read both, then it's like read it like a reflection. What you can do is this, Nowadays you've got very nice phones that can record very nice, clearly. You read this, mindfully, and then you play and listen. especially before you go to sleep. Right? I'm sure your phone will switch off automatically, right? So you just play and you fall asleep. That's a wonderful way. It's called sleep happily, So your dreams also will be Dharma dreams. In fact, most of my dreams are all Buddhist dreams, mostly anyway. Dream of retreats, meeting monks and doing things with them and so on. So, alright, the first part the Buddha talks about the 10 Dharmati points. So here the Buddha said there are 10 things you cannot rely on totally. Why does Buddha mention these 10 points? Because here Badiya is talking about rumors. He's talking about talk by the public, right? So, come Badiya, do not go by tradition or oral wisdom. Oral means by listening, or revelation. Okay, so these are extra explanation for you. Do not listen to tradition, right? Tradition meaning people have been practicing this for a long time, just because of that, so we should do it also. Sometimes it's not good, right? So, number 2, do not go by lineage. Receive wisdom. Okay, lineage here, some people say, oh, this teacher is right. Why? Because he comes from a long line of other teachers, right? The Zen tradition follows that lineage of teachers. Again, the Buddha says, no, this is not the seal of truth. You must find out for yourself, right? But the Buddha has not told what to do yet. He says, this is no standard of truth. Number 3, do not go by hearsay. Hearsay means rumors, right? Just because someone says it, it's not truth, it's fake news. So the Buddha is warning us against fake news here. He wants us to investigate. Number 3, he says, do not go by scriptural authority. Wow, this one is a kind of self-test. It says, even when you read the sutta, you must check. Where does it come from? Is it correct? Right? And then number 5, do not go by pure reason, by logic. Now logic is fine, you use logic for computers, mathematics, but many things in our life don't go by logic. For example, the kind of food that you like, it's not logical. You feel you like it or you feel you don't like it. When you fall in love, it's not logical, right? It's a feeling, right? Lots of things go with feelings, so not everything is logic. Happiness is not logic, right? It's a feeling. Next one, number 6, do not go by inference, deduction. Here again is a kind of logic. You see cause, effect, A leading to B like that, we should not jump into conclusion when you see someone we think doing something wrong. We've got to find out what exactly happened, for example. Number 7, do not go by reasoned thought or by specious reasoning. Because sometimes we are very good in reasoning. We think about this, oh, this must be it. We could be wrong in our reasoning. So in other words, we should not just reason in our minds alone, we must go out and investigate also. And then number 8, do not go by acceptance of being convinced of a view after pondering on it. So here it means sometimes someone tells you something, so you listen to it, you think about it, say, oh, you must be right. Okay? You find someone wrote some very nice books nowadays. They say nowadays we have what are called empires of ideas, empires of view. Wherever you go today, whether it's religion or politics or even science, there is this empire of views, empire of teachings, empire of ideas. Religion is a very good example. Every group, every teacher teach something and then the followers say, oh, this teacher is right, all other teachers are wrong, or this method is right, all other methods are not right, and so on. So they try to sustain this empire. So don't read other people's book, don't do other methods, right? Assuming that you, basically the meaning is you should investigate, in other words, free inquiry. Of course, when you have investigated and you find, oh, this is the right way I've taken, that's not an empire, see, that is your practice. Here the idea is a crowd. You have this group, your followers, and you have this dogma. So become a dogma, And we often say, oh, Buddhism is free from dogma. It's not true. Buddhism has a lot of dogmas. You go to any teacher today, you go to any group, you find they will have some very fixed idea about certain things, and they will not be very happy with you if you think otherwise. So dogma is always there, so be very careful. Dogma means a kind of fixed views, fixed mind, in other words. It's different if, let's say, we know everything is impermanent. Why is it not a dogma? Because wherever you go, you can see for yourself whether you are Buddhist or not. It is true. So that's different. And it's not something, whether you believe it or not, doesn't really matter to the religion. Okay? It matters to you as a person. Your happiness is what matters, in other words. And by your clarity of mind, you understand the teaching of impermanence, for example, the other people also benefit because you have right views, so you are at peace with yourself, you're also happy. They go together, you have right view, you have loving kindness, you're also happy. And when you're happy, people also feel happy. And it's also reflected in your person, in your behavior, and so on. Okay, so that's number 8. And then number 9, do not go by another seeming ability. Now we often hear, someone tells you, oh, you must come for this class, this teacher is amazing, right? He's teaching this really fantastic sutta. Whether the Buddha taught it or not is another matter. They forget about the Buddha. So all these are very tricky situations, where we forget the Buddha, in other words. So, and then here comes along, we say, oh, of course there are some cases very rather odd. Some people may say, oh, you must come and listen to this monk, or this speaker is very handsome, or this nun is very pretty, You find all this kind of childish, puerile talk. I mean, you'd be surprised. People do talk like that, Or worse, they may not say this, but they actually are attracted to monks because monks are single and basically eligible. This is a common thing in Thailand, right? So the monks are very careful about this problem. So that's why there's always social distance. We often hear, we say, women should not touch the monks. Actually, men also should not touch the monks. We're talking about social distance so that the monks can keep their rule of celibacy, so that the monks don't mess their minds up, then they can meditate, they will disrobe. So here, social distance is to help the monk practice. It's also to help the layperson keep their practice. So the social distance is very important. Buddhist monks are not like film stars going around waving at people, hugging people, holding babies. They don't do that. Buddha Ghosha specifically mentioned all this politically, I don't know what you call this, politically correct things, I suppose, where you become popular, right? So there's no such thing as a populist monk or populist teaching. It's not very helpful. That's the crowd teaching. Okay, so this is the meaning here. Then the last one, number 10, do not go by the thought, this monk or this recluse is our teacher. You can also translate this Ma Samano Nagaru as this recluse is respected by me, by us. Okay? So here, even if our teacher, very respectful teacher, and in the Vimamsaka Sutta, the Buddha himself said, even if I were to say something, examine it, examine my thoughts, examine my speech, examine my actions. Is it correct? The problem here is sometimes we hear something that our teacher tells us, but in our head, it becomes something else. We can be mistaken, right? So if we kind of make sure we heard it right, and then we understand it right. So these are the stages of learning, okay? So these are the 10 kind of warnings, okay, that the Buddha is giving us, not to blindly rush into conclusion in these 10 ways. They are not true sources of, they are not the real sources of truth, in other words. They do not give us the right thing at once. You've got to examine something else. So in the rest of the sutta, the Buddha is going to tell us what is that something else you must check. Okay? So in this first part, the Buddha is talking about 4 things that you must watch out for. Okay? And that's how you decide whether something is good or bad. That's another way you can put it. Something you should accept or reject. Okay? Alright, so now the Buddha continues. He gives us 4 more standards. He first summarized the teaching at 3.2, section 3.2. When you know for yourself, Badiya, these things are unwholesome. Unwholesome, that means not helpful to you. 2.2. And then, these things are blamable. That means other people will say, oh, it's wrong. These things are censured by the wise. Okay? That means there are good people who are wise who say, oh, this is not right. These things fully undertaken by oneself bring about harm and suffering. It will not make us happy. It will cause us suffering, mental suffering, physical suffering. Right? Then, Badiya, you should abandon them. Notice, this is the final authority, if you like. Now, if you can't remember all those things, just remember one. Unwholesome. If something is unwholesome, that means it promotes greed, hate, delusion, then you should let it go. But to Badiya, the Buddha adds one more quality. Remember, Saramba. We'll come to that in a moment. So now the Buddha goes on to what are called the 4 unwholesome motives. Notice, normally we hear the 3 unwholesome motives. Greed, hate, delusion. Anything that is motivated by greed, motivated by hate, which is the opposite, or motivated by delusion, wrong ideas, wrong views, it is wrong. But here the Buddha says, if it is motivated by haughtiness, by arrogance, by quarrelsomeness, it is also wrong. Alright, let's look at how the Buddha phrases this important set of teachings. Now you can see also section 3, what is the subheading there? Greed, right? And look at section 4, what is the subheading? Hate. And then section 4.2, illusion, and then 4.3, impetuosity. So these are the 4 unwholesome motives. Okay? Now we are on page, what page is that? 94. Page 94, section 3. So 93, page 93, section 3. Now the Buddha is teaching Badiya and also teaching us now, saying, when should we reject something? Someone says something, we read something, we see something, especially on internet even. So when do we reject it? When there are 4 things, any of these 4 things. Number 1, greed. Look at section 3. What do you think, Badiya? When greed arises in a person, is it for his good or for his harm? You notice here, the Buddha asks a simple question. He wants to be sure that we remember it. This is called the Socratic method, question-answer. Okay, so the Buddha is reminding us, common sense, you will know. This is common sense teaching. Okay? Greed, is it good or bad? Alright? Now, in other words, we know this, we know deep in our hearts, but it's so deep we don't see it. That's the problem. So the Buddha is raising it into our consciousness. Okay? So the Buddha is saying, look inside you, you know this, you know that, you know what greed is, right? Is it good or bad? And who answers? It's not the Buddha answering, it's Badiya. What does Badiya say? For his harm, if you do something out of greed, it will harm you. And then the Buddha asks, this person, Badiya, who is greedy, overcome by greed, his mind controlled by it, will destroy life, will take what is not given, will violate the women of others, will tell lies, and will also make others do likewise, which will bring about harm and suffering for a long time. Okay, so here the Buddha applies precepts, right? So now the Buddha explains why greed is bad. So the Buddha tells Badiya, if you have greed, then you break the precepts. You're more likely to break the precepts. Out of greed, you will kill, you will steal, you will commit adultery, and you will lie. Okay, we have a problem here. Someone may say, hey, drinking is not mentioned, huh? So it's all right to drink. No, it's just that here the 4 precepts are mentioned, whereas you have in the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha speaks very clearly and very strongly against drinking, right? So these are the 4 basic ones, but there is a 5th one. The Buddha says that not only this person will break the precepts, he will also encourage others to break the precepts. And this will bring a lot of suffering, right? Elsewhere, the Buddha teaches what are called the threefold purity of practicing moral virtue, practicing the precepts. What are the threefold purity? Number 1, you keep the precepts. Let's say you don't kill, okay? Then you also encourage others not to kill. And number 3, you praise people when they keep the precepts. Right? So these are called the 3 purities of your practice. What do you call? Keep the precepts. Yourself. What's the second one just now? Encourage others to. You set the example. You encourage others to do it, and then you communicate with them. You say sadhu. That's good. So the social aspect. So in other words, by example. And then here Bhaddiya agrees. So notice here, the Buddha doesn't impose his teaching on others. The Buddha says true or not, right? Okay, if it's true, then we go next. Agreed? Say yes. And then you go on from there, right? The Buddha never threatens, say you don't believe this and then something's going to happen to you. Only when the audience, the other group is dishonest, yes, then something very interesting happens. Now this is quite funny, a bit of Buddhist humor if you like. If the other person is a liar or try to discredit the Buddha, the Buddha asks him a question, he's supposed to answer but he does not answer honestly, normally he keeps silent. Then the story goes that Vajrapani, the thunderbolt wielder, appears mid-air, very frightening figure. This is actually a Greek figure, like Zeus holding the thunderbolt. But it's a fearsome figure. Now, one reason this figure is used is because Buddha's time is the Iron Age. They learn to smelt iron. Iron when you just molten is bright and very hot. So they imagine that it's like thunder, and this Vajrapani is like a spirit, He's able to hold this and is going to throw this thunderbolt at the liar, you see. Now the interesting thing is only the Buddha and the liar, the dishonest person, sees this being. And the interesting thing about all this kind of figure, we say, these imaginative stories, is that no one gets killed. It's something good, No one gets killed. No horror movies in Buddhism. This person is so terrified, he will answer. He will somehow answer, right? Even Mara appears, interestingly, Mara only appears to monks and nuns, to meditators, especially when they're meditating, and to gods and devas and brahmas. Mara never appears to lay people like us. So don't be frightened. Mara will never appear to you. Even when you meditate, deep meditation, Mara won't appear, to you. Chitta, the householder, could attain 4 jhanas, and Mara never appeared to him. Apparently, here it refers to those people who go into deep meditation and who are working towards awakening. So they have more struggle, and these are thoughts that come back to them. I'm still thinking about this too. I've written something about this in the latest book called The Miraculous Life of Gautama Buddha. I discuss a bit. I'm supposed to write an essay on Mara, volume 64, I think. So that's a bit later on. So the point here is that all this powerful and fierce figure of bad and evil do not really harm anyone. It's just like a lesson to those who try to lie. So here, the good thing is Bhaddiya is eager to listen, so there's no problem here. We can interpret that kind of fear arising in the questioner is dishonesty. They suddenly feel guilty. inside them. They feel that they should not be dishonest in front of someone so virtuous like the Buddha, in other words. Okay. All right. So this is greed, right? Then you got the same cycle. You notice section 4. Everything. Okay. First sentence says, "What do you think, Bhadaya, when hate arises?" Right. Then hate is bold. So that's the one-word change. Everything is the same. And then you look further down, everything is italicized. Look at the precepts, they're all italicized, right? So once you see like that, that means all repeated as like the previous section. In other translation, a commercial translation, they will put etc. Of course, you look at this, it's easier to read. Well, once they put etc., sometimes we don't know what is the etc. You know? So in this SD translation, we put everything in full. But when you see the italics, you don't have to read it if you don't want, but you have a good idea what it is. It refers to the 4 precepts. So here again, the Buddha basically is saying, Bhadaya, when hate arises, is it good or bad? Of course it's bad. Bhadaya says it's bad. Then the Buddha continues and says, now, when someone has hate, he will also break the precepts. Right? And when you break the precepts, then you encourage others to break the precepts, suffering comes to you. So it's not very helpful, right? Notice the Buddha hasn't answered the question yet. He's building up the answer. He's giving a full answer to this very intelligent person. So, Buddha says, number 1, if you have greed, you will break the precepts. You have hate, you will break the precepts. Very easy to remember. Greed and hate are opposites. Right? When you want something, or you like it, wow, this is wonderful. No? And when you can't get it, hate arises. So they go together. When there's one, there's the other. Okay? If you overcome one, you also overcome the other. Alright, then comes the third one. Delusion. Same thing, everything's repeated. It's a cycle, we call this. Section 4.2. Delusion. What do you think, Bhadaya, when delusion arises in a person, is it for his good or for his harm? Of course, for his harm, says Bhadaya. Then the Buddha continues and says, when someone is deluded, when he has delusion, he will break the precepts for all the wrong views that he has. Right? So that's not good. And then number 4, impetuosity. This is new to us, right? Impetuosity means arrogance, kind of quarrelsomeness and so on. What do you think, Bhadaya? When impetuosity arises in a person, when the person is quarrelsome, is it for his good or for his harm? Of course it's not good, right? And then he will break the precepts and encourage others to break the precepts, and this will bring suffering. Why is the Buddha mentioning this? Remember, the Buddha is going to answer the question about these people claiming that the Buddha is he used tricks to convert others. They are lying, they are attacking the Buddha. So what Buddha is saying here is, all these people, when they talk all these bad things against me, is either out of greed, out of hate, out of delusion, or just being quarrelsome, they are jealous of me. That's impetuosity, okay? Kind of bad-hearted, if you like, okay? So, this is number 4. Alright, so, now, this first part nearly finished. Then the Buddha summarizes. You know, if you're a teacher, you can see the teaching sequence here. This is a very interesting way of teaching, making sure the listener memorize, can remember the teaching. So now the Buddha puts everything together again. Section 5. Look at how the Buddha put the teaching in a new cycle to help Bhadaya remember. What do you think, Bhadaya? Are these things wholesome or unwholesome? So all these things you have spoken. People acting out of greed, hate, delusion, and impetuosity. Then Bhadaya, of course, answers unwholesome, Bhante. Is it blamable or not blamable? Of course it's blamable, Bhante. Censured or praised by the wise? This is censured by the wise. Okay. These things fully undertaken for oneself, do they bring harm and suffering? Of course, Bhadaya says yes, they bring harm and suffering. Right? So the Buddha says, very good, you have understood. Right? Then the Buddha repeats, this is repeating the important points again. Says, that's why I'm teaching you the 10 points. Remember that you cannot always get the truth by simply through tradition. or by lineage, or by hearsay, or by scriptural authority, or by pure reason, by inference, by reason thought, by acceptance of views after pondering about it, or from another seeming ability, or from the thought, my teacher is famous, or my teacher is respected. Right? So these 10 points are not necessarily standards of truth. You must ask yourself, has this got greed, hate, delusion, and impetuosity or not? Okay? So the first cycle is finished. The bad cycle, if you like. So here, it's very interesting to notice the Buddha builds on the 3 unwholesome roots: greed, hate, delusion. Number 4 is impetuosity, right? Arrogance, quarrelsomeness, and so on. Sometimes you have, number 4 is fear. Greed, hate, delusion, fear. Because of these 4 biases. When these 4, they're called biases. Greed, hate, delusion, fear, people also break the precepts. Okay? But in Buddhism, we don't use fear. Okay? Alright, now comes the good cycle. We more or less know what the good cycle is. But we must not say, oh, I know this already, forget about it. That's the problem. Once you know about it, you can just forget about it. Right? That's why on the internet I often write, knowledge is not only a burden, but it also hinders you from learning more. Right? Knowledge is a burden. In other words, we collect facts. You know, it's like we like to buy books and we never read them. Now, I must admit, I don't read all the books I have, but I will always glance through at least like a quick summary, index the book. You know, the next time I remember, okay, this is where that important idea is, then I'll look it up. Right? There are some books worth reading slowly. There's some books you skim through quickly, and there's some book you can keep reading later. Right? I think someone said that, something to that effect. You know? So anyway, so here we once you remember this thing, it's not enough. You must apply in daily life. Look around, and then spend quiet moment. Okay. Now, I met this really amazing guy. He is a Muslim, but he married a Catholic, and he named the children with Buddhist names. and he showed me something very interesting. He says, you know, I need to spend quiet moments every day. Actually, he meditates, you know. He do breath meditation. So when he said that, I said, oh, I think I'm going to like this guy, you know. Because I often tell you, spend quiet moment every day or once a week, you know. So when you spend a quiet moment, you reflect on the teachings. You reflect what happened today, what happened last week, what happened last month, now what happened whole of last year. Okay, how did I go? What should I adjust? What should I correct? Where can I be better? Okay. You try. There are some things, of course, almost impossible to do. Like for myself, I say, oh yeah, I hope to lose some weight, but I can't somehow. No matter how little I eat, I still put on weight. I mean, it's like half my life ago, I was just opposite, the other way around. I was really skinny. I mean, you remember me, those days I'm half the size. And no matter how much I eat, I was still skinny. You know, so some things don't seem to work, you know. So you try your best, all right? But that's not a moral issue. It's not so bad, okay? So when we reflect during these quiet moments, they are more for moral issues. Did I hurt anyone? Did I hurt myself? How do I improve myself? Okay, so you spend this quiet moment reflecting. It can be any time, any place, especially a beautiful, quiet place. You can spend a quiet moment in a very old, peaceful temple, or before your shrine, right? Or just lying in bed peacefully, spend a quiet moment, right? That's called patisalana. Right? Okay, then the Buddha starts with a wholesome cycle. Look at 7.2. What do you think, Badiya? These things are wholesome. He goes through all the 10 points again. Do not, take the truth by these 10 points alone. So are these wholesome or not? Are these blamable or not? And so on. So Badiya agrees that they are good and they bring happiness. So then we should practice them, right? In other words, avoiding jumping into conclusions to these standpoints. And then the Buddha continues with the four wholesome motives. Section 8. Notice the section 8, non-greed, right? And then the next section is non-hate, and then non-delusion, and then non-impetuosity. Instead of non-impetuosity, you can, if you like, you can think of loving kindness also can. Alright, let's look at number 8. Section 8. What do you think, Bhatia? This person in whom non-greed arises, does it arise for his good or for his harm? For his good, Bhante, right? So non-greed, that means generosity, charity arises. It's good for you. And this person, Bhatia, who is not greedy, not overcome by greed, his thought controlled by it, will not destroy life, will not take the not given, will not violate the women of others, and will not tell lies. He will also not make others do likewise, which will bring about good and happiness for a long time. And then Bhatia agrees, yes, Bhante. Okay, then someone else also may nitpick the sutta and may say, oh look, the Buddha says he will not violate the women of others. So it's okay for men, for women to have affairs with men. Well, it's not the point here. The Buddha is addressing a man. So he's telling the man, he says, don't violate the women of others. So this is contextual. But you look at the sutta, it says, Kamesu miccaccara. It's more broad, right? So remember the context and don't jump into conclusion at the words alone. Okay? Sometimes we get a lot of this. This is where we say, you know the sutta, but you don't understand it. The wisdom is missing. And this often happens on Facebook and social media. People start quarreling, And actually they are all right, but they think that only they are right. So that's the problem, and that causes a lot of unhappiness. Imagine people never met each other, living thousands of miles away, quarreling hating each other. Isn't that stupid, right? So I have to remind them of that, and I say, hey, you've not met each other. Why are you fighting, quarreling? I mean, you should be making friends. Okay. And by the way, sometimes monks who go online, they also forget. The monks are very easy to help. The ones I quietly message them. How come you don't do this on the open message panels or open posting panel? I mean, you should be a little courteous. Do in a private message. I wrote to him. I said, Bhante, you are a monk. Please remember that. He said, oops, oh yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, right. So we do have cases like that, right? All right. So then, next point, section 9, the Buddha talks about non-hate. Everything is repeated here. Okay. So what do you think, Bhatia? This person in whom non-hate or loving kindness arises, does it arise for his good or for his harm? Of course, it's for his good. And someone with non-hate, that is with loving kindness, will not break the precepts. Now we often hear this, right? If you have a lot of loving kindness, metta, it helps you to keep the precepts. You want to go for retreats? Loving kindness is very important. And this will be for your happiness. If you have a lot of loving kindness, even your enemies dare not hurt you. They try, but they can't. It won't work. And then same thing with non-delusion. Non-delusion is wisdom. If you have wisdom, you won't break the precepts. And it is for your happiness. And then the last one, non-impetuosity. Okay? Kind of friendliness, openness. Same thing. You won't break the precepts. You won't come to harm. And it is easier for you to understand things. Then the refrain starts again. Section 10, the Buddha concludes, what do you think, Bhatia? Are these things wholesome or unwholesome? All these teachings, and of course it's wholesome, so it's not blamable, it's praised by the wise. And when this is practiced, it is for our good and happiness for a long time. Then again, one more time, the Buddha reminds Bhatia, that's why I teach you these 10 points. Do not go by tradition, lineage, hearsay, and so on. Okay? make sure you ask yourself, is this wholesome or not, and so on. So now this part is finished, then you have the concluding part, where actually the two more parts. There is this conversion cycle. Section 12. Now, Bhaddiya, the good, true individuals in the world encourage their disciples thus: my good man, come now, dwell again and again, pushing away greed. Right? Now I'm going to summarize. Pushing away hate, pushing away delusion, pushing away impetuosity. Now here the Buddha does not say only he says any good person, the true individuals, those who are spiritually cultivated, good people. Anywhere they will tell their followers, push away, avoid greed, avoid hate, avoid delusion, avoid quarrelsomeness, impetuosity. Alright, now once the Buddha said that, there's a line that I should read to you. The second, two last line, 12.5. When you dwell again and again pushing away greed, hate, delusion, impetuosity, you will not do any action born of greed, hate, delusion or impetuosity by way of body, speech or mind. So your body, speech and mind are pure. If you avoid greed, hate, delusion and quarrelsomeness. So Bhaddiya is very happy. But Bhaddiya says, excellent Bhante, right? So now I go for refuge. This is a refuge formula. So he's very happy. But the story is not finished. In other sutta, you find the story, the sutta ends here. The Buddha continues a bit more. I think here because Bhaddiya is ready, so the Buddha doesn't stop there. He is going to tell something very important, which I often tell you also here if you follow the Facebook and my teachings here. 14. Now Bhaddiya, did I say to you thus, come Bhaddiya, be my disciple, I will be your teacher. Bhaddiya says, not at all, Bhante. Right? So Buddha says, did I tell you, come and join me, become a monk, Bhaddiya said, no. Yes, Bhaddiya, says the Buddha, though I spoke thus, point out thus, some recluses and Brahmin emptily, wrongly, untruthfully, falsely, baselessly misrepresent me. This is the Buddha's answer. So these people attack me, they say I convert people, but did I ever tell you, come, join me? Right? This is something Buddha never goes around and say, come to me. Right? I mean, come and convert, join me, right? So Bhaddiya says no. So Bhaddiya himself, in other words, knows the answer is inside him. Then, so now Bhaddiya is very happy. Okay. Now Bhaddiya gives the lion roar. Okay. Expression of faith. Section 16. Look at what is. I have given you the subtitle here, the stream winning cycle. So this tells you what the highlight of the chapter is, so easy to read. You don't find all this in the sutta or the translation, other translations. So section 16, Bhaddiya's lion roar is very happy. So he says, auspicious Bhante is conversion magic. Beautiful Bhante is conversion magic. Right? So of course this is the Bhaddiya is thinking of the way the Buddha uses the word. Alright? So this is where others may criticize us. We say, okay, nice. To me, this is a positive word, right? Our neighbors say we are little red dots. We say, yes, we are a wonderful, beautiful red dot, right? We don't get angry about it. Then, Bhante, beloved. Notice what beloved is Piya, by the way. Would be my blood relatives and relations. Were they to be converted by this conversion, it would be for my beloved relatives good and happiness for a long time. It says, it's wonderful if my relatives join. Bhante, all the Kshatriyas, the noble class, were to be converted, it would be good for them too, right? If all Kshatriyas are the nobles, today we can call them the politicians, if you like. These are the warriors, the noblemen, noble class. And then bracket 3 says, Bhante, all the Brahmins, the priestly class, you can say these are the educationists, educated class. If all the Brahmins are to be converted in this way, it would be wonderful. And then next one are the business class, the Vaishyas. If they were to be converted, even more wonderful. And then the fourth class, the Shudras, these are the working class. And if they are converted, it would be wonderful. So these are the 4 well-known classes in India. Then the Buddha agrees. The Buddha says, yes, so it is, Bhaddiya, so it is. And the Buddha repeats everything that Bhaddiya says. So this is actually not what the Buddha said. The Buddha is simply approving of what Bhaddiya said, that what he said is true, that the teaching is auspicious, and if all the 4 classes were to convert, great. In fact, that is what's happening. You get people from all the 4 classes becoming laymen, laywomen, and monks and nuns, and great arhats. Then the Buddha made a final, very important, very beautiful statement, section 18. Bhaddiya, even if these great sal trees, there are trees there, even if these great sal trees were to be converted by this conversion for the abandoning of unwholesome states, for the promoting of wholesome states, it would be for their good and happiness of these sal trees for a long time. Right? So now first the Buddha makes a statement, he says, even if these trees practice this, they will benefit, provided they could think. They must think. Trees. Now this is where we must not, this is where the Japanese got it mixed up, They say even rocks and stones can become enlightened. Nowhere the Buddha said that. Rocks and stones are neutral, nothing happens, It is in your mind. Only when you have a mind, you become enlightened. So here you are, the Buddha says, if they could think, if there's a mental process, if they have a mind. And the last line, notice what does the last line say? What more to say of human beings? If trees had a mind, they can attain stream winning, So what more human beings? Our minds are amazing. So why don't you use your mind? So this ending is very positive, very amazing, right? Reminding us to practice. So how do we practice? Well, if we have difficulty doing deep meditations, okay, we just keep on reflecting on impermanence. This class is already going to end, a bit longer than usual, So, and the year also is ending, right? So the sutta study also has ended. Well, we have a few minutes for questions if you want.
Yeah, what do you call this the stream winning cycle?
Why did I call it stream winning? I take this word conversion to be like something like the first, because if you really convert, you must reach the path, you see. And the first step of the path is stream winning. So you can say winning the path, but my idea is to encourage more and more people to aspire to stream winning. That's why I put the section as the stream winning cycle, because if you use your mind and you reflect all these teachings, you can attain at least stream winning. Okay? Yeah, maybe I feedback.
The word non-impetuosity, can I translate it? It's not loving kindness, because loving kindness is already.
Yes. It's already there.
To say patience.
Oh yeah, of course, it includes patience. Definitely. You can look at the discussion. There's a section there on impetuosity. What number is it? Conversion magic. Okay, stream winning is on 1.6. Why I mentioned stream winning? Okay, 1.6. 4.2 is it? Impetuosity? Oh yeah, 4.2. Okay, Saramba. So there's a long discussion there. I think part of it, yeah, definitely patience is there.
You use the sadhana.
Yes. Okay, any other feedback, questions? This sutta is taught publicly first time today for you all, because normally I will teach the Kesapatiya Sutta, Kalama Sutta. This is the shorter version. It gives more or less the same ideas, the key ideas.
Yeah, when the sutta talks about conversion and going to the Buddha for refuge, does it mean that the person merely changes his belief, or does it mean that he becomes a monk?
Oh, it just means that he clears away wrong views.
Change his views.
Yeah, change views, especially of greed, hate,
But not
and
necessarily become an ascetic.
No. Yeah. Going for refuge actually is. You notice here, Badiya goes for refuge. In fact, a Brahmin called Janusoni, I counted, he took refuge about 12 or 13 times, more than 12 times. Every time, almost every sutta, and every sutta where he appears, he will take refuge. So it's like, because the Brahmins like rituals, so to them it's like, oh, now I renew my faith in you. So he's declaring his faith in the Buddha.
So taking refuge as opposed to ordination.
Yeah. This just showing that I'm happy to, now that I understand the teaching, I accept this teaching as my practice.
So it's just like in the Catholic Church, Sunday they go to the priest to take that bread to eat.
I don't know about that. Yeah, suppose
In those days,
yeah.
Sorry, in those days, these Brahmins, what they believe, is it something like Jainism or Hinduism or
Jainism is separate from Brahmanism. Jainism is also part of the reform movement. Whereas the Brahmins, they represent the old school, the mainstream. Okay, it's like the Catholic Church. The Brahmins are like the Catholic Church, trying to impose their standards because they feel they are the old school. Then you have the other reform school, and Buddhism is one of them. Those who either they accept the Vedas or they reject the Vedas. So those who accept the Vedas are called the Astikas, and those who reject are called the Nastika. Okay, in Pali is Natika. Yeah. So there was a time when they began to question all these Brahmins who want to control everything. They basically commercialize everything. There's a price on every ritual. And it's very costly to get them. And another thing is the whole region, northern central India, is becoming urbanized. The kings are beginning to conquer bigger areas. So imagine large areas, many countries under one king. So there's greater peace. So that means more commerce. People have more time to think, more time to discuss. They have more money, so they work less. Got more time, you get more time, you worry more, you question more. So they have time to question all kinds of things, questions about life and so on. So that's the kind of background. They'll begin to question the Brahmins, the old ways and so on. So the Brahmins got pushed away to the far west, where the country was less developed. So where this area, which is very developed, you have King Bimbisara rising up. King Bimbisara using iron, because iron was discovered, it's called Iron Age. He controlled the Ganges River trade, so he became rich to keep an army, and so on. So this the age of empire was beginning in the Buddha's time. Things were changing. Anything else?
I just want to ask a question. Actually, there is a footnote here saying that, footnote 51, saying that at this point, before this Badiya, after this Udana, he actually attained swimming.
Yeah, that could be the reason why I put this. That's not so important, because sometimes we forget these important details. So that's why I call it the stream-winning cycle. Badiya actually attains stream-winning at the end of it. That's the real conversion. He converts himself. The Buddha teaches, and then something happens to him. Basically, he's really at peace with himself. You can't see any difference when someone is a stream winner. He won't even tell you he's a stream winner. He might not even know he's a stream winner at first. But it's after all, what is a stream winner? It's a term used by the sutta, you know. So later on, when they study the sutta, I say, oh, okay, looks like I'm a stream winner then, you know. So because he keeps the precepts, you know, he has great faith in the three jewels, he stands up for the three jewels, and he's very clear in his mind about impermanence and a bit of, he understands suffering also, and a bit about non-self, in other words. Because non-self is the most difficult teaching to understand. Now it's very interesting to see how Westerners are learning Buddhism. Of course, many of them are still learning quite new. Their theory is very good. So it's just a matter of correcting, refining what they know. First, one of them said, once you know impermanence, you also understand suffering, understand non-self. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. Because if that's the case, then you don't need to talk about the 4 stages of sainthood, you know. The stream winner works with impermanence. He understands impermanence very well and accepts it. The Arahat fully understands non-self. The other saints still do not fully understand the nature of non-self. It's very difficult. We think we know, but it has not seeped into our whole being yet. It has not changed our life. We still say, oh, this is my cup, or my this. You know, we still own things, and so on. You know, we still worry about money, for example, right? So there's always this ownership. That's self. That is idea of self. It's not that it's good or bad. It's our nature at this point. But if you're a stream winner, it's okay. You may still have these little worries, but that's all. You don't go beyond that. You will not go to the extent of enjoying breaking the precepts. You won't enjoy. You don't plan to break the precepts. And when you do break the precepts, you are very concerned. You say, why did this happen? And then you reflect on it and so on. Basically, you are a truly good person. Okay? All right, anything else? 2 more minutes. So basically this teaching is telling us, don't listen to rumors. People will say a lot of things, right things, wrong things. Examine for yourself. When you know, how do you know something is good or bad? If something is rooted in greed, hate, delusion and impetuosity, it is bad. If it is rooted in non-greed, non-hate, non-delusion, non-impetuosity, it is good. Okay? So these are the basic things. If you can't remember the 4th one, doesn't matter. Remember great hate delusion, which is true. Okay? So we have to examine this. Sometimes we might make the wrong decision. Then later on we reflect. How did I make it wrong? Okay? And what can I do now? Okay, let's close our study with a short reflection. The beautiful Padya Sutta, literally Padya Sutta, through which again the Buddha reminds us to use our wisdom. We know what is good inside us. We have this natural ability or tendency to turn to good. Good is natural to us, so to speak. So if we allow this goodness to arise through the Buddha's teaching, we will discover our true self, which is good. And this is what we share with others. Reflecting in this way is very good, wonderful karma. By this good karma, may we direct our loving kindness for our own well-being and happiness, good health, clear mind, so that we will attain stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, by the power of the 3 jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to our loved ones, our family, relatives and friends, and those who are practicing the Dharma. May we all be well and happy and attain some high level of wisdom, especially stream winning in this life itself. And by the blessing of the 3 jewels too, may those who are seeking the truth, who are lost and confused, may their minds be clear, may they be calm and happy, and see the true Dharma in this life itself too. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.